Radio Improntadigitale I Love You conference. So I'm here with Cory Doctorow, blogger, novelist, technology activist, and you work on copyright a lot. Is in a world where the copy is everywhere, is still meaningful the concept of copyright nowadays?
Sure. I think if we think of copyright as the sets of rules that we use to negotiate how the industry works, of course, because the industry is full of people who have lawyers and who have agents and who can negotiate this stuff. But I think that the idea that we should have a set of rules that can apply at the same time to Universal Studios when it's negotiating the rights to make a Harry Potter ride from Warner Studios, but also apply to a 12-year-old who wants to put up her own little Harry Potter fan website. That's crazy. You either end up with a set of rules that the 12-year-old can never figure out how to work, or with a set of rules that are so simplified that they will never serve the purposes of Universal and Warner. I think the problem with copyright is that we haven't figured out how to separate out industrial activity from cultural activity, and how to create rules that are meaningful for cultural activity, and so we try to apply industrial rules to that. It's like, imagine you went out for dinner and you decided you were going to pick up the check, but when you paid for it, you had to register with the Financial Services Authority because you were transferring a sum of, 16 euros from one person to another. It's one thing to say banks should do that. I wish banks did do that. But it's another thing to say that every time, you loan someone 5 euros, you should be regulated by the finance industry.
So how can we make it work?
Well, I think we can come up with solutions that get copyright out of the way when it comes to individuals. Mostly that amounts to figuring out ways to make legal the things that most people think should be legal. So most of us have shared music with our friends all our lives. It's part of the musical tradition. Yeah. It's as old as music, really. Singing songs of the day, that's what music is. How do we make that legal? Well, in the past, when we've had times where music was out of control, we couldn't control every use, we created blanket licenses, and we didn't charge people for them. We charged some intermediary, we charged someone in the middle for it. So on your radio station, if a DJ wants to play a song, he doesn't call the record label and say, I'm about to play some Wham, do you want 15 cents or 10 cents? He just pays the blanket license. He can play any music he can find. It doesn't matter if it's a bootleg, it doesn't matter if it came on vinyl, it doesn't matter if he downloaded it from a pirate site. It's legal to play it on his radio station. Why can't our ISP opt in to pay 5 euros per customer? And in exchange for that, the customers, us, get the right to do what we're already doing. Then we figure out how to pay artists with that money. We collect a pool of money, pay it to artists. It's what we do for radio, it's what we do for live performance, it's what we do for karaoke, it's what we do for bars and clubs and malls, taxis and hairdressers. In fact, we do it everywhere except the internet. On the internet, we have this crazy idea that a better solution would be to alternate between wagging our fingers at people and telling them that they're crooks and suing them. So far, no one's ever made any money that way. No musician has made a penny from any of these lawsuits.
Okay, what's the concept of close enough to rock and roll in your media?
Of?
Close enough to rock and roll.
Close enough for rock and roll. Yeah. Well, so, rock and roll, this expression, that's close enough for rock and roll. The idea of rock and roll was that you sacrificed perfection for energy. So, the important thing wasn't to make sure that every note was perfect. The important thing was to just keep going. And in new media, I think that we sacrifice some of the polish that we associate with traditional media, but we substitute for it energy and velocity. So whereas before you might get a movie every 3 years from a studio that's 90 minutes long and every frame was perfect, now you might get people making serial fiction in their basements and producing a new installment every day. And there's lots of flaws and lots of places where you can see how it works. But the velocity of it and the engagement of it and the direct connection with audiences substitutes for it. I think that usually a new medium is good because it's good at all the things that the old medium was bad at. It's not good because it's better than the old medium was. We don't